Hello and welcome to Meander Travel, episode lucky number 13. We are talking today about Costa Rica. Now, if you listen to our last episode, episode 12, we talked about Costa Rica and Julie and I and our travels. But today we're talking with friends of ours who bought property in Costa Rica, and we want to talk to them all about their process and all about that kind of stuff. So, wheels up.
We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
Okay, we're here with Brian and Janet, friends of ours for a long time, over 20 years. I want to give a little introduction to who they are. Brian and I worked together by chance 20 plus years ago and worked together for about 5 years. And since then, we have remained friends. Our wives have been friends. Our kids grew up together. I coached all three of his kids in downhill skiing. We've stayed close for many years. And just, we run in the same circles. But even more so, we travel alike. We have been to many places, and they're always traveling. We're always traveling. And we actually ran into each other and saw each other, and you might have heard us talk about them on a podcast when we talked about London, because we were at the Vikings game, and we got together with them there. But just recently, on our last episode, we were talking about Costa Rica. Julie and I were down there. They were down there at the exact same time. In fact, we were in the same town for one of the days, the whole day, and we didn't know that they were there, and they didn't know we were there. Poor planning on our part, kind of like some of the stuff on that trip, if you listened. And but then they were staying there at their own place, so we wanted to talk to them about that. So let me introduce Brian and Janet.
Hello.
Howdy.
And what about me?
Oh, I'm sorry. And we're also here with my partner, Julie, and our producer, Caleb.
Hello.
Hello, he says. So,
All right, guys. Super exciting. We're really glad that you're joining us here. We are so interested in hearing about this process because when we got back and found out that you guys were just there and you're like, yeah, but we just bought a place. We were like, what? Because we really enjoyed our time in Costa Rica, but we had such a little snippet and we didn't do our planning normally like we typically do. So I think we didn't enjoy it as much as we could have and should have because we didn't do our normal preparation. So we are excited to hear what you guys love about Costa Rica and why you chose to purchase property there. So tell us a little bit about why you love Costa Rica and how you ended up choosing that spot to do this.
Sure. Yeah, I took a class. I took a class there in college, Spanish class, and loved it. And I came back convinced that I was going to move there at some point. And I was able to convince my roommate at the time that after school, we will work all summer, save up our money, and move there. And we did. And I spent about 6 months there. Janet came down to visit me while I was there, my parents, his parents, and we traveled the whole country. Just fell in love with the people, the culture, the weather. Everything was perfect down there, and just loved it, and just knew at some point we'd be back.
where did you live when you were there?
We had an apartment in San Jose, and but we didn't spend a lot of time there. We just traveled all over. We were able to hook up with some university professors. We brought our mountain bikes down there, so we biked all around. We learned to surf down there. We camped, just a variety of things. But we hardly ever spent any time at our apartment.
When I went to visit, Brian was living in a tent on the beach in Tamarindo. And there was, I think, one hotel there, and that was about it.
So it was really low key back then. It's really bustling now.
It is. It's a city, right? And when I was there, that was in that was the winter of 1996, 1997.
Yes, he's old.
Yeah. And there was one payphone in the little center cul-de-sac, I guess you'd call it. And that was it. That was my only...
I know exactly where you're talking.
Yeah.
At the end of the cul-de-sac, that on the main strip that comes down along the water, and it just kind of dead ends into a circle.
That's the one.
A couple restaurants right there, on the right up against the beach.
Totally. That's it. We walked by it when we were there just a month ago, but the payphone's gone.
He didn't call me very often, and I had no way of getting in touch with him. And I didn't believe this story about the one payphone, and then I got down there, and sure enough, one payphone.
Yep, and there was often a line for it. So.
And isn't it amazing how we thought Tamarindo was like pretty touristy?
It's like Cancun
it's
now.
Completely
It's
different.
huge.
Wow.
So you've been thinking about buying property for a long time there, since you were in college, basically,
Pretty
wanting
much.
to do this. How did and you said you've been all over. How did you choose an area when you wanted to actually decide to buy?
Yeah, well, and you've been down there a couple times since, and we took our kids down there as a family 6 years ago. So we went to Tamarindo, and it was so big we didn't recognize it. But we just thought we knew we'd be back, and I didn't really think about buying a property anywhere else. But little did I know Brian was daydreaming about this for probably years.
Well, of course.
So, but Costa Rica wasn't the first place you started looking at.
No, that's true. I was looking at Panama. I like the Bocas del Toro area. I'd never been there, but it looked attractive. I liked the island vibe there, and property was reasonable. But when we researched it, we discovered that it was difficult to get to, right? So you had to fly into Panama City and then go to a different airport and fly over there. So we wanted to look at something that would be easier for us to get to on a regular basis. And that particular part, that Guanacaste Peninsula of Costa Rica, in the winter months at least, you can fly directly from Minnesota to Liberia, Costa Rica, and it's pretty inexpensive. It's a direct flight. It's 5 hours, easy to get to logistically.
And Central Time Zone. We just did
Central
that.
Time
we just
Zone,
did
yeah.
that exact same flight that we just talked about. We were
Yep.
talking about that, how convenient that was.
I say you can leave at 7 in the morning here, and you can be on the beach that afternoon.
Yeah, we were. It was great. So I have a question for you then. Were you wanting to just buy property internationally for the sake of an investment property, or did you just want to buy something so that you could use it as your, family kind of cabin, fun place? Like, what was your main priority?
Well, mine was I wanted a tropical atmosphere. I wanted a laid-back vibe. I wanted some place where I could feel casual, surf, swim, snorkel, dive, all those things. And Panama, Costa Rica, that the Central America really, fit that vibe for me.
Yeah, and I didn't think we were going down there to buy something. So we went down. I thought we were going to look for maybe 10 years from now, closer to retirement, and get some ideas. So we went down over Valentine's Day last year, right around both of our 50th birthdays. So we were celebrating, and we beach hopped and just kind of got a sense of the vibe of a variety of different beach towns. Some were too big, some maybe too small, not quite, or too far, like Tamarindo, too far from the airport, and too big. And then we met with a realtor down there that Brian knew through some business connection, just so we could get an idea of what buying real estate there would look like.
So we actually wanted to talk about that. Is like, how did you get your first, when you got a real estate agent? How did you find that? You had a friend or a connection. How does that go about? How does one just say, I want to do this? Who do I talk to?
Well, I had been talking about it, obviously, with some of my friends, and one of my business friends said, hey, I've got a friend that just bought something in Costa Rica. Would you like to meet with them? And sure enough, we met, and he kind of walked me through their process, I guess, and introduced me on WhatsApp to his friend and real estate agent down there that we ended up meeting with when we went down there. And so that's kind of how we got started. We knew a little bit then when we went down there, and the real estate agent was able to give us a nice education and kind of show us some of the places down there, what we could expect for X amount of money, that type of thing.
It was a big crash course because we met him for lunch, and we learned, for one, there's no kind of MLS down there. So you can't come home and look at properties online and think you're going to see everything. The other is that real estate agents really only work in their town. So don't ask them about a town 10 miles up the road. They won't know anything about it.
So the guy you had that you knew from a friend of a friend, or maybe that friend, did he only have the area that you guys ended up buying in?
No. No, in fact, he said, what interests you about this area, Playa Grande? And we said, well, we were just looking anywhere. And he said, well, I only know about this area. But then he took us around. He actually took us up to his place too. I think he was from Oregon. He's from
somewhere
Portland.
in the U.S.
So
anyhow.
he was a U.S. guy. But he and his family moved to a place up on a mountain there, so they have a great ocean view, and he could kind of show us what would be possible if we were looking at something like that.
So, what were your stipulations? What kind of property were you looking for?
Go ahead.
We pretty quickly decided ocean view was not the priority for us. Walking to the ocean was. So to be able to get a place that was close enough that we could walk down to the beach for sunset was one of our top priorities.
And as far as like, did you want a condo or apartment or house, and then like how many bedrooms, bathrooms, like what kind of specifics?
Yeah, originally we had in our mind, or at least I did, that I wanted a house, and we didn't know much. We didn't really intend to do it as an investment. We just wanted to have a place now while we, could maybe make it work, so that down the road, when we had more time to spend down there, we'd have a place already. And so we were originally looking at homes, and
just properties that we could build on.
That's right. I forgot
Yeah.
about that part too.
But then we realized the thing that we love most about Costa Rica is the laid-back Pura Vida lifestyle, which also means you will never get your home built if you buy a property there.
That'll be way more stress, than you
Especially from a
would bargain
distance.
for. Yeah, right.
So what did you finally settle on?
Yeah. So can I tell this part of it?
Sure.
So we ended up meeting with a realtor after we explored a couple of different beach towns. We found an area we really liked, and we just basically called a real estate agent that we saw, I think, on a billboard, and
It was actually, we were looking online, and we saw a property that was listed by them, so we called and asked if we could see them, and that's how we met them, I think.
Okay. So some are listed, but not an exhaustive list. Correct. Anyway, so he was able to meet with us, and he showed us 2 units in a condo. We originally had said no. We were not interested in a condo. But he said just to get an idea. So he showed us these 2 units and then explained they all come fully furnished, and several of these condos are being used in this building as Airbnbs. And that was kind of the first time we really thought about an Airbnb type idea. So we came home and we met with our financial advisor to think, could we make this work sooner rather than 10 years from now, especially if we're able to rent it out? And then we did some virtual tours through Zoom, and we had one standalone property that was a little villa in a little community, and then we had the condo we were looking at. And we kind of agreed on what we were going to spend, and we could not decide. They both had 3 bedrooms. The condo was in a nice unit, larger unit, so you might have more people, more of a community. The villa was nice. It was a little bit bigger. It had a sunroom that could be a 4th bedroom, and we just couldn't decide. So I finally told Brian, just make an offer on one and surprise me.
Oh my God. I could never do that.
So I was out at a work event one night, and I saw a text from Brian saying our offer was accepted. And I said, which one?
You're like, what offer?
Which one? So he went with a condo.
Yep.
And
I think it was a good decision, right?
Too late now.
Yeah, too late now, right? But, very little for us to worry about. Very, no maintenance. It's all taken care of for us.
If you're not
so.
living there, there's a lot of upkeep on a house that a
pest
condo,
control,
Yeah.
yard work. Yeah. The pest control was kind of I don't want to worry about that.
And the realtor had really kind of pushed us towards a condo. He said, yeah, if you're not going to be there, this is probably the way you want to go.
Yeah. So we still hadn't seen the property.
You hadn't
Not
seen it
in
yet.
person.
We'd done the Zoom tour, and then
You guys
Brian
are brave.
Brian found a flight for
Yeah, I think I flew down there one afternoon and came back the
remember
next
that.
afternoon.
I remember that. It was during ski season.
It was during ski season, and it was just for one day, $400, I think, $398 or something like that. Went down there and came back and was able to walk through it. It looked exactly like it did on our virtual tour. Yeah, everything was perfect.
So describe to us what the financial transaction was like. Like, did you have to get
It was
lawyer? Like,
a lot. A lot.
I would think so. Yeah. Well, what does that entail?
Brian at one point had said, "You don't seem very excited about this." And I said, "No, I'm super excited about it. I just don't have a lot of time or capacity to do the work that it means to make this happen. But if you want to do it," and so he did.
So I did. Yeah, I kind of took control. We the realtor that we bought the property through suggested an attorney to work with, and you definitely need an attorney. That is
All property is required to go through an attorney.
yeah, and one that is very knowledgeable in real estate and maybe has worked with international purchases like this was key.
And
So your lawyer was here, though.
No.
Yep, he referred us to an attorney in Costa Rica.
And that attorney, when we did a Zoom call with him, said he worked with someone from Minnesota at a law firm, Frederickson and Byron here, and he did a lot of transactions with him. And I looked on LinkedIn, and I saw this guy, and we had a common connection, and so I reached out to him. And I didn't even tell him the attorney's name down there. I just said, we're thinking about buying property down there. We understand we need an attorney. He got back to me right away and said, I recommend this guy. And it was the same guy.
You're loaded with it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yes.
All of this has come down to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose it is. And a little bit of luck too doesn't hurt, right?
You can't finance property down there as a non-resident. So you have to figure out the financing here. You essentially have to pay cash.
So you finance it here, get the cash, pay it to them down
Yep.
there, and then it's done down there.
Correct.
Yes.
That's a
So
lot
you
of
can
work.
get a loan here. Translate.
You could
it
get
into
creative,
cash.
whether it's a credit access line or whatever. But you also, like, Brian, maybe you want to talk about how we set up for future, like the LLC and all this.
So the attorney recommended that we purchase the condo with a Costa Rican LLC or limitada. And so he helped us create a Costa Rican LLC, which now owns the condo. And he also suggested that we create an LLC in the United States that owns the Costa Rican LLC that owns the condo. So we did that. And the main reason is that I think if you are going to maybe will the property to your kids or something like that, in Costa Rica, if you are changing ownership like that, I think it can get hung up in probate court, I think is what he told us, for maybe several years. So he said that if you have another company that can own that and you can change the owners of that company, that makes it a very smooth transition in Costa Rica. So
Yeah. So the LLC here is 50-50 ownership of us, but it owns 100% of the LLC there. So if something were to happen to one of us, it's still protected.
I would assume at some point down the road when we have a big following with this podcast that people are looking to buy internationally or listening to this going, okay, I now have some idea that this is not just, hey, I like that place, I'm going to buy it. There's a lot to it, and you're going to have to get your ducks in a row.
There's also, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, having a knowledgeable attorney and real estate agent really made all the difference for us. It was certainly work, but they made it relatively easy work for us.
They did all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
And to your point, the most important thing up front was that we trusted them.
So you had to make sure you had a trustworthy one. So then you also wanted to set it up as a Airbnb. What's the process of doing that? Same people, same lawyers, different things?
Nope, not same people, but our real estate agent, again, made a couple of suggestions, and we talked to these property managers that manage other Airbnb-type properties, And we went with one of them, and they virtually take care of everything. So it's not only Airbnb, but it can be listed on VRBO, I think, Hostfully. There's
Is
maybe
it
a
on
coast-
Booking.com, TripAdvisor, those types of things, right? So they take care of putting it on those websites, managing the traffic. They have some vacation rental software that they use that they give us access to. So we can see. In fact, we even get notified every time they get a new booking. And we can go in and look who it is and block our own time if we want.
Tell us about that. Tell us how you do that. I mean, you can't just plan a trip for next week because it might be booked. So you do have to book how far out in advance? I mean, have you already been doing that so far?
We have. I think right away we went and blocked spring break coming up here. We did that almost a year in advance, I guess. But let's see. I'm going down tomorrow, and the only reason I chose tomorrow is because there was a slight gap in bookings, so I could go down there and spend a few days there and not disrupt any schedules.
Yeah, so we had the week between Christmas and New Year's scheduled for us as a family. That was our first time all down there. It was the first time I'd seen the place. So the 5 of us spent the week down there and celebrated New Year's. While we were down there, we made a list of things that we thought we might want to do to, whether it's put up pictures or just kind of some handyman type stuff. We found the local hardware store, kind of got acclimated, that kind of stuff. And then Brian started making his list of little projects that he would want to do, knowing that none of it really needs to be done. But if there are bare walls or things, or we set up an owner's closet so we can keep some things down there, first aid kit, stuff like that. So Brian, as he was making that list, said it'd be really great if I came back down here and I just had time to do this. So he just looked, and sure enough, it was like 3 or 4 weeks out. There was a gap in the schedule, and so he booked flights and is leaving tomorrow.
2 questions on that. One is when you book it yourself and you're blocking off that time, do you have to pay like cleaning fees and all that stuff, or have any kind of a fee? Because the people that are running this for you get a cut, I would assume, of whatever your Airbnb rentals are.
Correct. Yeah, they get a percentage, and the deal that we made, I don't think we really had to negotiate. We just talked about it, and so when we go down there ourselves, we don't pay anything. We just pay the cleaning fee at the end, and so they will invoice that. Well, actually, they send us a statement every month, and they just they do all the math for us. The bookings, the cleaning fees, any maintenance that needs to be done. They go ahead and take care of it, and then shows up in the invoice, and we either come out ahead or come out behind. But yeah, so even when I go down there now, all of this maintenance stuff, and I say that with air quotes, the maintenance things I'm doing, they would do it all for us, and they would bill it. But
it's a good excuse to
yeah,
get
why
back
not?
down there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
So-
Honey-do list.
Right.
Brian's got to go.
But basically, you're coming out ahead no matter what, because you weren't planning on having any investment coming out of this property. You were just thinking it was going to be a fun spot. So even if there are
Right.
some little things, it's a win-win situation.
I will say we did spend a fair amount more than we planned to on the investment. So we kind of had a dollar amount in mind. And when we saw what we could afford for that, we got pretty discouraged. And then when we came back and met with our advisor, she kind of talked us through, well, hang on, if you're making some income on this and you're not talking about selling, even if you sell it in 5-10 years, you're going to make money on it. So she was able to help us have the peace of mind that we could spend the extra money and still feel good about it.
So then that brings the next question is taxes. So how do you do you've got property now in 2 countries. Like, do you have to pay taxes in both countries? Like, how does that work for the tax season?
We do. There's property tax in Costa Rica that we pay annually. We have an accountant down there as well. That is loosely linked to our attorney.
We didn't know we needed one until we met with our attorney when we were there over New Year's, and he said, "I think you really need an accountant down here." And And then he walked to the office right next to him and said, here's a guy I know.
How
happen to know
convenient.
somebody.
And this is in the lawyer's office. They're wearing flip-flops and shorts. I mean, just the whole lifestyle and,
Pura vida.
again, everything relationship-based.
But yeah, we do have property taxes. The property taxes down there are pretty low. Most of the tax that you pay on a residence down there, you pay during the purchase. So it is heavily upfront loaded. So the property taxes are pretty low. And then our Costa Rican LLC, the Limitada, there are some taxes that we pay on that as well because it is a business. I think they call it like an inactive entity, but there's still tax filings that you have to do annually. And so we are just kind of in the midst of learning about all of that now too.
Can you write off your travel expenses?
Yes. There's
That Christmas vacation. Wasn't vacation, everybody. Anybody listening, that was a work trip.
Yes.
Yes.
We replaced at least one doorknob while we were down there. So we were.
But
Spraying for bugs.
our accountant here in Minnesota said, and we still haven't gotten into the nitty gritty of it, but he said, yes, there's a certain amount that you can write off, a certain number of trips, that type of thing. So we are keeping all of our receipts and documenting everything so that when we do file our taxes this year, we can take that into account.
So, okay, so your flights might be a write-off, but how do you get around when you're in country? Do you have a car there, or are you just constantly renting a car every time you go there, or how do you get around?
Well, we have rented
Oh,
a
if
car.
you could only see their eyes looking at each other in that one. This is going to be a good answer, you guys, because they both looked at each other with like, oh. They don't see eye to eye in this one, I don't think.
Well, I think it would depend on the purpose of our trip. So we have rented a car when we've gone down there. And that was perfect because we were doing things like going to the hardware store and finding the Costa Rican version of Costco so we could buy, like some furniture and things. So we had a car and we needed it. Now, I went back over Martin Luther King Day, so just 2 weeks after we were there over New Year's. I went back on a girls' trip and 7 days. And
Don't you mean work trip?
a work trip? Yes, exactly.
With a bunch of ladies.
and we all said the last day we didn't need a car. We wouldn't have rented a car again. And the reason being, the property manager can help arrange rides. The airport is about 25 minutes from the condo. So we can get a ride for just about the same price as we would an Uber to the airport here. And it's all the logistics are taken care of because the property manager will do it. And Brian, maybe you want to say you had a customer who went down and stayed there. And he said the property managers took care of their ride.
Yeah, they arranged for the property manager a rental car to be delivered. They also had transportation on their various excursions that they did. That was all arranged through the property manager. So yes, they really could have gotten away with not renting a car. And the condo is in the community that we're in. It's walking distance to the beach. It's walking distance to bars and restaurants. Not that there are a ton of them, but everything is walkable. So if you didn't want to do travel on your own, that's the way to do it.
And the excursions that we've done down there, a couple of them we just did right from the beach. So we walked down, we found our guy, Sebastian, is our new best friend down there. He's hooked us up with a bunch of boat tours and things and snorkeling, and you just walk down to the beach and he'll pick you up on a boat and there you go. So you don't need a car. When I was down with my girlfriends, we did a full day, 12-hour rainforest excursion. And I did that through TripAdvisor. And when I booked it, it said, okay, meet at such and such place, which was maybe a 10-minute walk. And I just sent a WhatsApp or whatever, would you mind picking us up at our place? Oh, sure. So everything is they're very accommodating. And in hindsight, again, all the excursions, everything we did was either walkable or someone picked us up.
So knowing all that you know and all that you've had to do, would you do it again? Is it what you wanted?
In a heartbeat.
That's great.
I would. I wonder why we even hesitated.
And you were worried about the money and all that stuff in the upfront, 10 years early, too soon, and now you're like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
Yep. If you can make it work, and if you've got a creative accountant or a financial advisor that can help you get there, yes, I would do it. And we've already seen some other properties in that same complex that are listed more than we bought our own place. So we do see that it is an investment too. So,
And we love to travel. So
Yes.
I don't think we're going to stop traveling other places.
Ooh, that was one of our last questions.
Yes,
We're like,
yes.
wait a minute, are we going to see you like in Madrid when the Vikings are playing there? And are we still going to see you traveling all over the world?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be now tied down to Costa Rica?
Yeah, I don't think we're tied down there. I think we'll go a few times a year. That's my thought. And then, especially with the kids, our youngest, who are in high school, but once we're not tied to a school schedule and we could just go for a long weekend and, like Brian said, you get a flight for $400 and go for a few days or just a brief time. And I could see us doing more and more of that in addition to other travel. And we won't feel guilty if we don't go down there, because anytime we're not down there, it's likely going to be booked and we'll be making money on it.
And that's the beauty of having the condo with the Airbnb, because now you don't feel like you have to be down there. Because I know a lot of people who buy a cabin in Minnesota,
Yes.
they feel like, oh man, we got to get there on the weekends. We got to get there all summer because we own it. We don't go the rest of the year. So you would have felt like you probably had to make use of it. And now you kind of have the best of both worlds.
well, yeah, and there's no real maintenance for us, right? So we don't have to mow the lawn. We don't have to get up there and mow the lawn. Winterize it or anything like that. It's all taken care of for us, so we can just go if we want, and if we don't have time, then it's not a loss.
And we have already met some people in the community there, which is pretty cool, because there are 2 pools in the area, and a couple of times when we're walking by or just spending a little time in the pool, there's another couple. There was one from Toronto, one from Quebec, one from Florida, and then a number of people in Costa Rica who might use that as kind of like a cabin type retreat. So I expect the more time we spend down there, the more we're actually going to get to know some of our neighbors down there, which is really kind of the community that we want long term.
That's awesome. So what advice, other than what we've already mentioned, would you give to somebody who's thinking about buying property in either Costa Rica or in another country, since you looked at some other countries as well?
I would go down there and spend a night or two, really kind of get the vibe of these different places that you might want to look at. That's what we did. We already knew that we wanted to focus on this area of Costa Rica, but we hadn't been to these towns, so we spent a night or two in each one and went out, went to a restaurant, went down to the beach, kind of got the vibe, and that helped us narrow it down for sure, anyhow.
And then in Costa Rica in general, for people who just want to travel there, maybe not, jump in and buy something there, do you have any other recommendations in the rest of the country, since you've seen so much and we've only seen little bits? Can you give some other tips or some recommendations for our listeners?
Well, Costa Rica is so diverse, right? And in the Northwest area where we live, it's fairly dry. It doesn't rain a lot, even during the wet season. But you can go further south. You can go on the Caribbean side, and it's way more lush. I think there's more coral for diving and snorkeling over there. But it rains a little bit more. But in between, you've got mountains. You've got volcanoes. So it's just so diverse, so much to do, so many different plants and animals that you've probably never seen before. So
The animals, that was the deciding factor. That was one of my criteria: ocean and monkeys.
Lots of monkeys.
So when we were beach hopping back over Valentine's Day, this beach, Playa Hermosa, where we are, we walked down the beach and we looked at the trees, and there were monkeys in the trees. And I said to Brian, "This is it.
That's all you needed."
This is the place.
yeah, that did kind of seal the deal.
Well, we want to thank you guys for coming and talking about this, because you know how when you travel a lot, you talk to a lot of people, and they all say, "Oh, we went to so and so. I could live there. Like I could buy. I want to buy a property there." I mean, I've been looking religiously online for 6-7 years for Italy, looking at apartments. I have searches all over Italy. More than that, way more than that. But I've never taken that leap, right? So that leap is a very, very hard thing for people to even contemplate, and it's a scary thing. Obviously, there's a bunch of work to it. there's a lot of, little stuff that you have to do with lawyers and translations and stuff, I would assume as well, too. But from the sounds of it, you guys love it, and you're glad you did it, and you did it earlier than you thought you would have. So all in all, very, very good. Thank you for letting our listeners hear that, because I think that when you just talk about traveling to places, you kind of lose out on some of these other stories that you can tell, like, hey, how do you go about getting an Airbnb in your name, and how do you buy it, and where do you go to? So this has been, I think, really good for people. Maybe we'll do some more. Maybe when we buy in Italy someday, honey, we can talk about that.
And maybe we'll go stay at their condo.
And maybe
Yeah.
we can
Yes.
come visit you.
There we go.
Give Costa Rica another chance.
We will.
Awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, we will. We will. We just know that was our bad timing last minute. But thanks, everybody, and thanks for listening. Please follow us on Instagram, YouTube. Go to our website, meandhertravel.com, and check out our links. And all of the show notes and the things we talk about are all listed there by Julie. But as we wind up here, maybe we can all just say it together here.
Wheels up!